Salam, this is Ramala Hubb'Allah from Pakistani Himalayas, and today we're going to do a wipe the board with me. What is it? Let's go and take a look. All right, for those familiar with my format, I do make videos by writing on a whiteboard, and it is actually quite a wide whiteboard for my intents and purposes. My camera covers just about 45% or 40% of the part of this whiteboard, and I do write my ideas everywhere on the site. Sometimes I try to pull these ideas onto this part where I am going to make the video, and then see these ideas as they occur to me. I've written around the board, and what has happened now is that I made my last video in December 29, 2025. Today is March 12th, 2026. A lot has happened in this world that needs to be covered, and I need to wipe the board. So, wipe the board with me is me erasing these ideas with you, but I am going to shortly cover what these ideas mean. So, we will probably do longer videos on this. If we don't, um, at least you'll know what was on my mind. So, I can wipe this off now and start afresh on some of the current and relevant thematics. So, what do we have here? The urge to control comes from disbelief in God because you don't feel you will be supported by God. And the cure is ZIKR. This should be pretty much a self-explanatory. What is happening in this world? This is a huge thematic, right? And this connects with the warfare that is happening in the world and some of the other issues that we are focusing on these days, such as the exploitation and trafficking of children, soul harvest. Some people believe it, some people don't. But what we definitely do know is that people are trying to do soul harvest by sacrificing women and children and even aspects of earth. And this is their actual belief. They're trying to engage energies, they're trying to do some energetic manipulation. Guided by supernatural forces that some believe in and some don't. But even if we don't believe in it, we know that they are trying to do that. So if we don't believe that this thing happens, that this thing occurs, that this thing is even possible theologically or technically, what we do know is that they are trying to control things in this manner, right? Um, so this is the urge of control. This is the height and the depth and abysmal depth of wanting to control things because you feel you are life giving. That is the problem behind these diabolical manipulations and cults that are doing this to children. One, they're doing for entertainment, outright entertainment. They're bored, their nervous systems get exhausted. When the human brain touches a certain kind of capacity and does not operate in the divinely ordained or spiritual or natural realm, or a healthy realm for those people who don't believe in divine and natural or whatever, when it's not operating along healthy lines anymore, when it doesn't have a good expansion plan, it gets exhausted. It becomes actually cluttered, right? It is kind of like you have a storeroom and it's just getting filled up on its own, or if you've left like a attic and it's filled with rats and owls and owl droppings and all sorts of things, and things start getting cluttered until they start interacting with each other and they start turning fouler and fouler, and owl droppings are now reacting with water leakages, with acidic drop leakages or whatever gas and thing, and then it becomes something foul. This is actually what happens in the neurology of sick human beings who are the brain can basically expand exponentially, but if it has inappropriate, incorrect expansion patterns, they start um, clashing with one another, right? So if you need to expand something, there are toys, for example, I think it's called, well, there are some geometric toys which expand and collapse, right? Um, they can expand and collapse only when they have the right pattern to expand and collapse. If you do not fold and unfold things according to certain correct geometric patterns, things are going to clash and they're going to fight with each other and get destroyed and become a soup. So, what happens with human brains basically, that when they have um, fabricated beliefs and incorrect patterns, it becomes a clutter inside, it becomes a soup inside. The soup becomes diabolical. And by diabolical, I don't mean the actual diabolic, the supernatural entity. I mean it's nasty. It becomes bad. So you have a human mind, which is kind of like a software or AI system or something that is filled with really bad instructions, it's doing randomest things. And when it becomes when it starts operating in such an exhausting fashion, it becomes energy deprived. And the energy comes to it according to its own deprived thinking through extraction and disruption of life, right? So these are really bad thinking patterns at the core of it. So we have bad cluttered brains, and then we have the urge to control, which is a very bad neurological pattern where you feel that you need to do everything. Sometimes it comes because you are oppositional to God. You say and you know that there's a God, that there's something divine out there, something bigger than you, something larger than you, a system that works. Some people call it God, some people want to call it system, some people call it trusting the world, and some people, while they don't evidently believe in God, just know that the world works. I don't have to do anything about it. I don't have to manipulate. I don't have to control, right? But I use the God language, right? There are people who, however, feel that they have to control it, either because they're manipulative or they're envious, or they just want to control things and insert themselves into everything. And some people do it because they are weak. They don't see any God. They are nervous. They're probably traumatized. They're scared, and they're like, "Oh, I don't think anything is working. So I have to seize control of everything." And they're operating from a place of nervousness. So the urge to control comes from various origins, okay? But the end of it is that it's kind of disbelief in God. Either you know God exists and you're hating God and you're being oppositional to God. The entity that is called Satan or Iblis in the Abrahamic faith systems is one that knows God exists. It knows what or who it is, what's the power, but chooses to be oppositional. So there are some who come from that point of view. There are others who are scared, who don't know what God is, how good God is, and say, I'm going to do everything myself, right? Sometimes there are people who go from really unstructured, or as we may call it, uncultured places, and they go to a more cultured or developed place, and they have no idea that there are machines that can operate on their own. There are people who have always lived in kind of homes and families where they had to cook everything by themselves and serve themselves. And for the first time, if you put them in a setting where they are catered to, they can't believe it, right? And they're like, no, I got to do everything myself. They control it, and so you that's trauma-based urge to control. And then you have to ease them into believing that God exists, God works, God's going to work for you, and ease down. You don't have to control everything. Sometimes those people who are really traumatized, who have actually not been supported in their life due to trauma, lack of experience, they were under coercion, they were in an unstructured society, they become kind of zombies who are controlled by those who want to control due to malicious intents. They do know that there's a system that exists. They want to tear it down because of envy or malevolence. So, the cure to it all is zikr, which is an Arabic word. Dhikr, they call it in Arabic, or zikr is the Urdu version of it, which is remembrance of God. Literally, at the basic level, it is chanting names of God. So it attunes your neurology. It reminds you through this rhythmic repetition of the name of God, and then other statements that are all reminders of God. So there's the name of God, and then there are other statements that say things like, only Allah is powerful, right? So by the chanting of those and repetition of those, you affirm to yourself, remind your neurology, and through the auditory feedback and attunement, you train your mind to understand that God exists. And so all kinds of control freaks or people who feel like they have to take charge because they're really weak and they've not been supported, they can ease down into a state where they are supported by God, and that reduces conflict. This is what it's about. Now that I've talked about it, I'm going to erase that. See you in a second. Okay, guys. Who are... Okay, so now we erase it, and maybe I should spare you the time that I spent erasing it. What else can we do now? Next, we have on the board micromutiny, grow food, etc. And also, if you are with a tyrant, start referring to Allah, triangulate. Because I spoke about zikr and control, I'm going to do this one first, all right? And this idea particularly basically says that, and this is about believers, who already believe in God. but tend to forget it. So if you have a problem with a person who's also a believer, but they're being a tyrant to you, they're oppressing you, they're being unfair to you, start referring to Allah. Triangulate, bring Allah in between. So this is for Muslims in particular, but can also apply to other believers, and by extension, of course, if you're not a Abrahamic believer or not do not believe in any religion, then you can refer to some moral code that you believe in or ethical code that you believe in. But right now, I'm referring to Muslims. So with a tyrant, instead of trying to deal with them on your own and do some quid pro quo, you refer to Allah and say, "This is the code that Allah has established between us." For example, if you're my husband and if you're not paying attention to me or not giving my rights, and you're paying attention to your brothers or your friends, etc., but not paying attention at home to your wife and children, then as a wife, these are my rights by Allah, and then you have to give those to me. Likewise for employers and employees. Employers need to take care of their employees, give them good working conditions, give them fair rules and structure, and then do accountability according to those rules and conditions and structure that are agreed upon, and also compensate them fair enough, well enough, and on time. So if they're not compensating you, your employer is not compensating you, you can refer to Allah and say, "These are my rights according to Allah." You triangulate that. You refer to Allah instead of trying to do some hanky panky on your own. Of course, you can also refer to the law that has been decided by the country, but also refer to Allah. This is what Allah has established between us, and you do that particularly in matters that are more interpersonal, in which you do not have like a contract written. For example, exactly as I said, like your husband not paying attention to you, or parent or children not being ethical to one another. So we can refer to the basic codes established by Allah between human beings. Likewise, to human beings' duties towards our kin folks, which are non human, that are plants and animals in particular, any kind of assets that we have. So those things cannot remind us in words, but they remind us through their condition, right? So if they look dilapidated or uncared for, it speaks for itself. But on behalf of them, another human being can speak and say, "Look, this is the thing that you have. Allah gave you something. You're not caring for it, and so this is your duty towards them." And we need to remind people often. In doing so, please remember that there are some people who become tyrants, or they look like tyrants, because they themselves are untrained or unsupported. So you say to somebody, "Look at you. Um, you haven't fed your horse. Looks like they're hungry." And that person says, "I gave all my money to this person who said they were going to get some fodder. I don't have any money anymore. I'm waiting for that person. I've not been able to feed my horse or my child or whatever." So this other person who is referring to Allah will now have an added threat to this entire conversation. Will say, the situation now changes. You're not exactly a tyrant. You look like a tyrant, right? You're not exactly a tyrant. You are yourself unsupported. So can we go to this other person and say, "Why did you take the money and not bring the food and get the food for you?" So this is it's a basic thread, but you can add more structures to it, and it can go from linear to binary to triangular, and then just keep on adding more dimensions to it, right? So you triangulate. You can also remind yourself of your own rights and duties by referring to Allah. If you need to eat enough food, but you're not eating enough food or not resting enough, then Allah has told you and in His book in Quran that you need to rest well. Allah says, "Night has been made for your rest, so you rest in it." And there are other rights written that enjoin of Allah's favors and then praise Allah. So if people say that you should not take initiative in your life and you should not do this and that, and you shouldn't rest and you blah blah, then you can say, "No, these are my rights." And you could also remind yourself of your rights. Like you can sit down at night and say, "Well, my body's right is to sleep or eat well, so I need to do this." And if there are other kind of philosophies or teachings that are taking you away from eating and resting well, through cultural discourse, for example, you say, "Nah, and these are my rights through Allah." And for knowing your rights, you will have to read the words and book of Allah, and then also look at the Sunnah and teachings of the Prophet ﷺ, and then also his companions and all other good people. So it's not like Allah stopped at the Quran. Allah has established this entire world and universe, and then you have to um, look at, there are dense and codes in the Quran, but the expansion is within the universe. and in the world around you, right? So the Quran itself says the signs are in heavens and within you, right? So it does give you that little line, gives you a massive quote. The signs are in heavens, like they're coming from the revelations of Allah, and within you. They're up there and they're within you as well. Within you doesn't mean just your body, it means your family, your structures, your institutions, etc. So you can look at the world around you, the world that has already been expressed, and you will see signs of Allah there. And heaven means which is still hidden or up there or not revealed or coming from Allah. Of course, the main code has already been revealed and completed. But there are other ongoing revelations like what's the weather going to be like tomorrow, who's going to be the political leader. So these are ongoing revelations. Those revelations are coming, but you can also look at the world around you. For example, if you need to understand something about history, what is God going to reveal tomorrow? That's in heaven. So it's up there. It's going to come in on its own time. You will know in the next election who will be elected and what they're going to act like. But within you means within your system are there are signs. You can say, oh, so many years ago, a similar person was elected. This is how they were behaving. So this other person who we think is going to be elected in the next 5 months is going to act more or less the same. So you can look at the world that has already been expressed and created and revealed, and the world that is yet to be revealed. So we have signs in both places. So this is what we mean if you are with a tyrant, start referring to Allah, triangulate. And now I'm going to take this off the board and we're going to do something else. Thank you. All right, so we have some other stuff here. Can we go to something more connected with this? Okay, we are on the subject of God and doing zikr and remembering Allah, so let's do this. Self-evaluation tool, relationship with God, move, F or M, more F or M, balance if lopsided, F or M, using 99 names. Okay, F and M here means more feminine or masculine, all right, in terms of energetic polarity and behavior. And balance it if it is lopsided, if it is kinked in one direction, either more feminine or masculine through using 99 names of Allah. For those who do not know, Allah, which is the Muslim name for God, is witnessed by human beings through various aspects and qualities. These qualities and aspects divide along the lines of these qualities and aspects, first of all, are defined using 99 names of Allah. Basically, we've defined these characteristics through various attributes, adjectives, you can say, and those are called the 99 names of Allah. For example, we have Rahman and Rahim, those are two names, and these mean merciful and beneficent and giving. Also, a lot of people are doing a deeper translation of Rahman and Rahim, and they notice that it contains the root word, Arabic root word for womb, RHM, right? So Rahman Rahim means giving, creating, generative, abundant. That is my translation of it. And the fact about 99 names is that, if not all, then most of them are divided along a masculine feminine divide. The feminine names of God are called Jamali, which means beautiful and kind of a delicate, dainty. And masculine is called Jalali, which means magnificent, very solar, right? So this is exactly the yin yang division that we have in Eastern faiths. Literally, the names are yin yang. Please remember that this masculine and feminine does not mean men and women. Men and women themselves are a derivative of or representation of what yin or yang means. These are basically energy types, okay? And I call them, in my language and for my purposes, non-gendered polarities. This opaque terms gendered basically means the study of polarities, but because the word polarities has become associated with gender studies, particularly the relationships of men and women, which for the purposes of human beings, the energy between man and woman is the creative and generative energy. for the human universe. And it also, when it is correctly established, helps us see the world correctly. So if you have bad masculine feminine energy division in your home, and you have dominant Jamali or Jalali energy, which is lopsided to the extent that it's become detrimental, then you will not be able to see the universe correctly. So it kind of starts at home, actually. But in theory, the non-gendered polarity study is about um, when you're just reflecting upon God, when you're reflecting upon the world that is outside of you. As I said, the signs are in heavens and within you. So when you're starting from home, from within you, or from literally your environment of your home, etc., then you start with the balance of energy at your home and rights and duties of human beings and family members, and within organizations and communities and villages, etc. And when you are just in your contemplating mode, when you're looking upon it happens and just contemplating, then you reflect upon the Jamali and Jalali qualities of Allah. So this is the coding part, right? And the human relationships are the manifestation part. But you can manage the manifestation or the environment or container in order to reflect back upon the coding. This is the coding part. This is the primary part, actually. If you want to balance lopsided energies in your own home and community or your country as well, in a way you start, in addition to trying to improve the contracts of people, the muamalat, as we call it, the transaction, in addition to transactional correctness, you have to, in fact, change the codes. And you do that literally by chanting these names. You go to the 99 names and you pick up the right feminine and masculine or masculine names, Jamali and Jalali, and you do that through using the prescriptions from guides and teachers who are called shuyukh, right? This is what the so-called Muslim esoterica or Sufi tariqas and silsilas are about. They're keepers of the name primarily. Many of them have become very divergent, very confused, full of clutter of mishmash, energetic and spiritual teachings, some of them new agey, etc., and politics, etc. But basically, fundamentally, they're the keepers of the names. And how to use those names. Basic formula. So this is a foundation. The names of Allah are the foundation codes of reality. 99 names. I have studied some coding back in at the start of the millennium, literally in 1999 and 2000, right? And I studied HTML coding. So for those who know about HTML coding, any kind of coding, if you want to make a web page, so you start with the code. The first, I'm remembering this roughly now, okay? So you start with the code that defines the page, right? Page, not exactly this code, but I'm just making it up. And then you have a code for paragraph, and here's where it ends. Okay, paragraph. It is in these pointed rank. And then you have a code for a link, and then you have a font, etc. So these are codes, the bigger code and the code inside, and then you close the inner code and then the outer code, and this is how you do it. Like, it's a bit like this. First you define the page, and then you define the paragraph. Just give an example, I'm not exactly accurate, but then you define a link and what the link looks like and how bold is it, etc. And this is how you have these structures, right? So the names of Allah are actually codes. I've dropped something that I need to make a whole big talk on. These are the names. And when you activate certain names, the impacts get activated in the universe. And so that's the basic knowledge that you have, but how to activate them, how much to activate, what to correct, what not to correct, is it really lopsided or not? Does something need to be more masculine or feminine? Is it okay this way? If you need to let things go, if automatic correction will kick in through the balancing laws of the universe, you don't need to name the names, right? So that is also part of this analysis. This is a huge talk, but I would hopefully develop a self-evaluation tool. If not, at first, this is what you need to know. Yep, and we're going to erase this from the board. And it's the miserable voice of erasing things from the board. I think I should cap off this raise the board with me right here. We'll do another part. This has already run too long. You've been with me. We've done some big sick things. And what you can do is to obtain AI summaries using the pertinent buttons on YouTube. And we'll come back and we'll erase some more until we have a clean board. And you've got a whole lot of set of talks to reflect upon and make notes on, keep a notebook here with you. And I'll probably open up private one-to-ones with me in which you can go in depth about these um, subjects. Thank you so much. This is Ramala Hubb'Allah, eco-feminine teacher in Pakistani Himalayas. Salam.